to be seen. Now she walks through her sunken dream to the seat with the clearest view, and she's hooked to the silver screen. But the film is a saddening bore, for she's lived it 10 times or more. She could spit in the eyes of fools as they ask her to focus on sailors fighting in the dance hall. Oh man, look at those cavemen go. It's the freakiest show. Take a look at the old man beating up the wrong guy. Oh man, wonder if he'll ever know he's in the best-selling show. Is there life on It's on America's tortured brow. Mickey Mouse has grown up a cow. The workers have struck for fame, 'cause Lenin's on sale again. See the mice in their million hordes, from Ibiza to the Norfolk Broads. Rule Britannia is out of bounds. To my mother, my dog and clowns. But the film is a saddening bore, for I wrote it 10 times or more. It's about to be written again, as I ask you to focus on sailors fighting in the dance hall. Oh man, look at those cavemen go. It's the freakiest show. Take a look at the lawman beating up the wrong guy. Oh man, wonder if he'll ever know he's in the best-selling show. Is there life on Mars? Sailors fighting in the dance hall. Oh man, look at those cavemen go. It's the freakiest show. Take a look at the lawman beating up the wrong guy. Oh man.
Hey, everybody. How you doing? Good? Good. That's good. Good. You got a little bit of time here to grab yourself a snack, get something to drink, turn that electric blanket up to 6. I've given you permission. And send out the link to all your friends and family not already in the stream. 6 o'clock Dad Rock Talk will begin in about 2.5 minutes.
Is there life on Mars? If you think that you don't want to smile, and if it takes you just a little while, open your eyes just look at the day. You'll see things in a different way. Don't stop thinking about tomorrow. Don't just stop. It will soon be here. Oh, it will be so much better than before. 'Cause yesterday's gone. Yesterday is gone. Why not stop and think? Think about the things to come. Oh, instead of all the little things you've done. Now, if you think life has been bad to you, just think about what tomorrow will do. Don't stop thinking about tomorrow. Don't you stop. It will soon be here. Oh, it will be so much
Welcome to the
better
Virtual Stab Comedy Theater. It's time for 6 o'clock Dad Rock Talk. Please welcome to your screen, 6 o'clock Dad Rock Talk.
Hey folks, welcome to the show. This is 6 o'clock Dad Rock Talk. I'm Corey Behringer, joined as always by my co-host and living tribute to obscure sunshine pop, Cord Hansen. How you doing, Cord?
I'm pretty good. I had a false positive COVID test last week, so I spent the last like 7 or so days living in fear.
Yeah.
But I got a follow-up test on Sunday and got the results back saying that I'm in the clear. And since I had no symptoms and no one in my household tested positive, we think that it was a false positive. So lucky there. So yeah, I'm feeling good now.
Oh man, yeah. I had no idea that was the situation with it, because you had mentioned briefly that you had a COVID scare. But for the most part, when people say that, it's more like I crossed paths with someone who tested positive or something.
Right.
A false positive is terrifying.
Yeah.
Because like that's a piece of paper that's telling you got it. Like, oh,
Yep.
geez.
So either I had it and somehow managed not to infect anyone in my house, and I was totally asymptomatic, or I didn't actually have it, which is probably more likely because I haven't been going anywhere.
Yeah.
How are
And,
you?
like,
How are you? How are you?
I'm
I never
well.
ask how you are. You always ask how I am, and I never follow up and ask you how you're
You
doing.
know, I don't need these things. You know, I've got a wife for that. You know, we talk about our days already, so I get it out of my system. But to answer you, I'm doing just ducky. I'm pleased as punch to be here because we got a fun show tonight. It's the first time on 6 o'clock Dad Rock Talk that we've actually taken a suggestion from our audience in the way of a topic. And we encourage this because this is actually a pretty good one. And it kind of saved our butts because, as you mentioned, you had a hell of a week. Your mind wasn't on this show.
No.
We weren't talking back and forth, bouncing around ideas for this week's topic. It wasn't until yesterday I was like, wait a minute, we don't have a show. Then I remembered that we got a great suggestion from @BarrySacto on Instagram. He suggested tribute songs. Because long story short, he was listening to Sparks because we were talking about the Sparks on the show, and there was the song about Edith Piaf. And so that's what we're doing this week. I don't know how you exactly interpreted that. I didn't do specifically songs about other artists as much as just songs that were directly in tribute to a person, you know.
Okay.
But I'm really intrigued as to what you might have brought to the table.
Yeah,
some of mine are some obvious ones, but you
Mine are
always
Mine are mostly tributes to other artists, either in lyrics or musical style. I think mostly lyrics. But yeah, I guess I considered opening it up to just tribute songs in general, but I didn't. I considered it, but I didn't.
Focus. Yes.
Yeah.
And I was kind of hoping that would be the case, because then it would be a nice mixture. So yeah, I'm excited to get right into it. So what we're going to be doing on the show, folks, in case this is your first time tuning in to 6 o'clock Dad Rock Talk, Court and I have both compiled a playlist on this week's topic, and then we're going to go back and forth listening to cuts from each of our playlists, and then we're going to talk about them after we listen to a short little clip from each. How does that sound, Court? Does that
Sounds
all
good.
make sense to you? Right.
It sounds
Well,
good
Jesse,
to me. What's
well,
that?
Jesse, will you please play the first song?
Was Bird Song by Jerry Garcia. It was also played by the Dead a lot, which was their tribute to Janis Joplin, who had passed away around the time that they started debuting this song. Yeah, it's one of my favorite Grateful Dead ones, just the way it builds. It's got that kind of looping main guitar riff that kind of plays through it. And I think it's also an example of their studio work sounding really cool. Whereas people tend to not pay as much attention to their stuff in the studio. That one has I think the production is really cool on that. You've got just the heavy drums, and then there's that kind of just droning organ through the background. Yeah. And so there's different ways that they've played it over the years, kind of stretching it out and jamifying it. But that was the studio version, one of my favorites.
I dug that a lot. I've never heard that song before, but it's that sweet spot of Dead studio stuff that I love, like that kind of tone. Just a really fun sounding riff to play too. Mm-hmm. Sounds like a very satisfying picking pattern with those like kind of hammer offs, you know.
Yeah,
I love that kind of thing. And I'm always a big fan of that sort of low rumbling tom sort of drum, like where it's almost tribal, where it's just maintaining that one loop. Big fan of that. That's
cool song.
Let's hear it.
Let's play Twister, let's play Risk. I'll see you in heaven if you make the list. Now, Andy, did you hear about this one? Tell me, are you locked in the pond?
That was REM with Man on the Moon, their tribute to Andy Kaufman. Such an amazing song. This one was an obvious choice for me. I almost felt like it was too obvious, but this is without a doubt my favorite REM album, Automatic for the People. And God, what a stirring tribute this song truly is. Honestly, in some ways, it's more compelling than the man himself. I mean, and I do consider myself an Andy Kaufman fan, but he is, I think, a victim to sort of the deification of comedy icons in a big way.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like his reputation is bigger than how great he actually was. Because if you go back and watch some of those old like specials, they are incredible. But it's the same with Lenny Bruce and all that. It's just the everything surrounding it. Are you much of an REM guy? I don't know if
I like REM, but I haven't done that much deep diving into them, really. Yeah. I guess I just know some of the hits, and occasionally I'll just put them on shuffle, but I probably couldn't name you that many songs. I like them though. I like their style. With the I'm losing my voice. With the jangly guitar. I know that they were very Byrds influenced in that. Along with
playing that Rick. Yeah.
Yep. But I don't have that much of a working knowledge of their discography.
I'm fairly recent of like an obsessive REM fan. I'd say like maybe 5 years ago or so is when I like started buying all of the albums. And up until that point, I was kind of like you. It's like, it was the hits. I knew REM songs, but I really never did an album sort of deep dive. When I did, oh man, there was no going back. Like they were just, they're one of those bands that you feel like at certain times they're just for you. And that's just such a special feeling. I don't have that with a lot of bands, and I don't even have that with some bands that I love a great deal. Like I don't really feel like Pink Floyd is just for me at any moment. Right. But I have that a lot when I listen to REM. So yeah, let's listen to another song.
That was the Stills Young Band with Long May You Run. The lyrics, the tribute-y part of the lyrics come up later when he talks about the Beach Boys, but it's also fitting your parameters. It's also a tribute to his car, to his old car. I really like that song. It's funny how like nice and soft it sounds, because I believe that's the album that was recorded as a Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young one, and then Stills and Young just deleted Crosby and Nash from the vocals, and it just became a Stills Young double like duo album. And then there was a tour for it that was really expensive, and Neil quit after a few dates just because he couldn't get along with Stills. But nonetheless, despite all of that, I think it's a very good album. It probably would have benefited from having the other guys' voices on there, because it can be a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for? When it's only changing back and forth between two lead vocalists, and they're just harmonizing with one another, it's kind of, But I do like that this mixes Neil Young with Stephen Stills' kind of like Latin drum influence. It's just a nice song.
I think that's my favorite kind of Neil Young singing. I feel like my favorite sort of Neil Young voice is like the fragile softness rather than the rocker Neil Young. I mean, I like the rocker sound too, but like when he's just, I don't know. It sounds like he just break any of his notes. Like it almost sounds like it's all just gonna fall apart because he's, it's a broken voice in a lot of ways. But I did that. Let's hear another.
Drove downtown in the rain, 9:30 on a Tuesday night, just to check out the late night record shop. Call it impulsive, call it compulsive, call it insane. But when I'm surrounded, I just can't stop. It's a matter of instinct, it's a matter of conditioning, a matter of fact. You can call me Pavlov, dog. Ring a bell and I'll salivate. How'd you like that? Dr. Landy, tell me you're not just a pedagogue. 'Cause right now I'm lying in bed, just like Brian Wilson did. Well, I'm lying in bed, just like Brian Wilson did.
And that was Bare Naked Ladies with Brian Wilson. Kind of a stretch as far as tribute because it's not directly just like really even about Brian Wilson. It's more about the feeling of sort of having a breakdown and comparing it to the struggles of their obvious hero of Brian Wilson.
I had never noticed the reference to Dr. Landy in the lyrics there. Which for audience members who don't know, that was the crazy psychotherapist, literally a psychopathic therapist who took over Brian Wilson's life through most of the 80s and had him on expired medication that was killing him. And it was through some legal, like his now wife and also his brother Carl, they both had a hand in getting him extricated from that situation. So, last time I heard that, I don't think I knew that story well enough to recognize that when he references Dr. Landy being a pedagogue.
I don't think I understood that reference until I watched Love and Mercy. And then I put sort of the stories together. But this is a great song.
It is.
I love Bare Naked Ladies so much.
Me too. Yeah, they're so
such
good.
A fun song.
When I went back and checked them out as an adult and went beyond just the couple of hits that I remember, they're so good. Their
album tracks are amazing.
they deserve the same sort of respect and love that They Might Be Giants and Pavement have as far as just 90s weird bands with strange lyrics and kind of high concept goofy stuff. I think that they're just as good as them. They just happen to have the biggest hit that kind of painted them into a corner, but they're so good. Their style spans so many different genres and they're great singers too. They put a lot of emphasis into their vocal harmonies, which is always cool. So that's a good song. Good band.
I hope someday we can do a Bare Naked Ladies episode.
Have you?
Because there's so much to get into there. Because obviously there's the different eras of the band as well. Like post Page and all that. Because that's also another thing. It's just they weren't even just reliant on how strong of a combo those two are. But they were actually able to continue and make fantastic records without his voice.
Have you heard Have you heard Stephen Page's solo album where he does a Mountain Goats cover and a Weaker Thans cover?
I
So
haven't
good.
heard that one. I've heard he has a bunch of. I only recently realized he had like a pretty sizable solo output. So I haven't heard that, but I'm going to look that up for sure.
Yeah, it's very good.
Nice.
Yeah, good band. I'm probably going to listen to them after this.
Nice. Let's hear another.
Teenage gambler sitting in a rambler, listening to the radio, and then standing in the grandstands, following the game plan, watching life's plays unfold. You fell in love with a pretty cheerleader. I even married one, and we once rode a cab out of Salt Lake City now, coming up with fun. They say that crying is bad. Well, I've known him for oh so long. They say crying is bad. Well, I never knew that he was gone. Still they say crying is bad. I know he's had his ups and downs. Well, they say crying is bad.
That was the Beach Boys with Brian's Back, which is, I think it's a very touching tribute to their, at the time, not very in the picture bandmate. It was written in the mid 70s. The lyrics eventually just collapse in on themselves by being Beach Boys references, which is something that the Mike Love led version of the band would frequently fall into, is just like, when they couldn't come up with like new lyrics, they would just reference an earlier Beach Boys song and use those lyrics.
Yeah.
But I think that this is an early example of that where it kind of works. Because as much as Mike Love and Brian Wilson seem to not like each other now, there was a period where they had genuine love and concern for one another. And this, I don't know, this song appears on a bootleg called Endless Bummer, the Worst of the Beach Boys. And I think that among some fans, they think it's kind of a corny cash-in the same way that the Brian's Back promotional campaign in the mid-70s was. And maybe so, but I do just think it's a sweet song. There's like parts where they talk about growing up and like singing on their grandma's lap and stuff. And it feels genuine, despite it being Mike Love singing about it. And he later, and this is honestly, I think, a little tasteless, on one of his more recent albums, Mike Love's, I think it was on Unleash the Love, which had one album full of new songs that were a lot of just repackaged old songs, and then one album of covers of old Beach Boys songs. And this is on there, and it uses it's a new recording, but it uses the vocal track of Carl Wilson in the background. But this is like after Mike and Brian have like really severed ties, and like this is like 2017 when that album came out or something. And it's just, that feels kind of like a cheapo cash-in because but this version, and there's a couple different versions of it from the 70s. I like this version. I think it's sweet. I think it's very nice.
I had never heard this song till now, and I'm a fan. I thought it was a lovely melody, and you know, even if it is a cash-in, who are we to say it's not both? How can it not be a cash-in and genuine? Like,
true.
I feel like it's sweet, and it's like, well, yeah, obviously, like they want that Brian money, and who could blame them? I like that a lot.
Yeah, I think it's a nice song.
Let's hear another.
There were 6 fine English boys who knew each other in Birmingham. They bought a drum and guitar, started a rock roll band.
That was Randy Newman with Story of a Rock and Roll Band. I love this because it is just, you can tell he just loves ELO and wanted to write a song about how ELO started.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, all of it is just literally the story of ELO.
That's
He's
great.
just giving you a beat for beat, like, biography of the band. Like, their first song went like this, and he just does
That's
that
funny.
song. It's so sweet because it's just a
Yeah.
fan. He's just a big fan.
Yeah,
And the
that's
whole,
really
like,
funny.
like the way that the string section is like that.
Mhm.
Jeff Lynne, like, just those,
Yeah.
I don't need to make the sound with my mouth. This is a very fun song off a pretty fun and incredibly underrated album of his, called Born Again. It's a much critically maligned album. A lot of people hated it for some reason. I think it might have had to do with, like, people still not understanding his sense of humor. Because, like, even on the cover, you may have seen it in passing before, but the cover is like a painting of him sitting behind a desk with Kiss makeup on, but
Oh yeah, yeah.
with the dollar signs.
Yes.
And, like, it's just, he's a goofball, But a lot of people just, I don't think they understood, like, is this supposed to just be a comedy album? Because then there's also, like, heavy satire in it as well, and like kind of darker stuff. So yeah, they didn't know what to think. But it's a fun album that I think people should check out.
Yeah, that is really funny. Just as that song as a concept is just really funny.
Exactly, and it's pretty short too. There's not a lot of fluff in it. It has several movements kind of within it because it is a tribute to ELO. But yeah, he just tells the story of a rock and roll band.
Yeah, that's great.
Let's hear another.
All of these nights that we've been a-dating, all of these nights that we've been a-waiting, something tells me the time is a-getting right. Oh, each time it takes a little bit longer, my love for you gets a little bit stronger, and I feel like I'm sitting on
That was the Modern Folk Quartet with This Could Be the Night, which is a Harry Nilsson song written to sound like a Brian Wilson song and produced by Phil Spector in what was meant to be like a tribute to Brian Wilson. So it's a tribute on top of a tribute. And so are you familiar with the MFQ at all?
No.
They were like a pretty traditional like folk act, kind of like New Christy Minstrels kind of act. And then in the late 60s, they kind of came under the wing of Phil Spector, who tried to rebrand them as like a sunshine pop kind of psychedelic group. But the song itself, which I think is great, it sat on the shelf until the mid 70s when it came out on just like a Phil Spector compilation album. Like 76 or so wasn't until it came out. So by then that opportunity had come and gone. And they were also booked as the house band for, I forget which live music TV show it was, but it was one that Phil Spector was like the musical director for. And they had kind of hoped that would bring some like mainstream stardom, but they just became the house band that would warm up the audience between the big acts that would actually get televised. So they just kind of got yanked out of their moderately successful like folk direction to do this new style. And then when Phil Spector got bored of them, he just kind of threw them by the wayside. But they went on to have successful careers as photographers in the case of Henry Diltz, and producers in their own right in the case of Jerry or Jim Yester. The less said about him, the better, though. We'll just leave it at that. But let's just say his crimes make Phil Spector's crime look...
I was going to say, I mean, in the same topic
Yeah.
as Phil Spector, and this is the one?
Yeah. But, you know, this was long before that happened.
Okay.
This is, but I just think it's a cool song because it's one very talented songwriter and producer writing a tribute to another very talented songwriter and producer, and the song is being done by another very talented songwriter and producer. So it's just an interesting like crossing of paths. And then later when Harry Nilsson died, there was a tribute album that Brian Wilson did a cover of that song on, and it's weird because Brian Wilson's voice in his 50s sounds like the lead vocals on this song from the late 60s. It's very interesting that his voice just kind of ended up sounding like the lead vocals on this. I just like that song. I think it's nice.
What's the name? Like the modern
folk quartet, usually abbreviated to MFQ, not to be confused with the NRBQ.
No, let's not do that.
Yeah,
I know so extremely little about that band, but they seem like a band that's meant for this show eventually. Because like to me, like that is dad rock in a single band. Every like older sound guy that I've ever like had working at a show that I did or something tried to turn me on to NRBQ. And when I listened, I was like, yeah, they're good. Why would anyone go out of their way for this though?
Yeah.
It's just so middle of the road. Anyway, let's hear another song.
Here's a cool guy, performance guard, a makeshift shrine, a newly named son, never even trying, gets the nod. I sure hope I'm not the type to dwell. Hope I'm a fast healer, fast as hell. Heaven is a better place today, 'cause of this, but the world is just not the same. If and when you get into the end zone, act like you've been there 1,000 times before. Don't blame, don't say people lose people all the time anymore. Tune into the busker and a husky keeping time.
That was the Tragically Hip with Heaven is a Better Place Today. That's the band's tribute to Danny Heatley. He was a hockey player who passed away in 2002. And it is such I feel like it's a powerful expression of like the frustrations that you feel when someone you care about dies. Particularly with the hook that gets repeated later on. We heard it at the tail end there, but don't say people lose people anymore. Just like don't say people lose people all the time anymore. And just like different platitudes that people say at funerals and that kind of thing. It has a certain venom to it, but not an overwhelming venom, just kind of like that, I don't know, just a frustration that I feel like Gord Downie captures really well. I've been listening to the album this is off of, In Between Evolution, on a pretty steady loop for the last week. And this is the album opener, and it just starts so strong. And I love that. I think this album came out in like 2004. So at this point, this is a band that could easily coast on their massive stardom in Canada. And like just tour every summer and like not even, need to keep putting stuff out. And yet they do. Like they're constantly putting out stuff at this time. They've averaged about an album every like year and a half throughout their entire career.
Yeah.
And everything was unique with each release.
I get
this is a
them
great song.
and Teenage Fan Club mixed up. I think
Oh,
that
yeah.
they have similar sounding, like their names don't sound the same, but they have the same tone about them, which is like,
Yeah.
I don't know. But I really like that. It kind of reminded me of like The Promise Ring and Sunny Day Real Estate, like that kind of 90s Midwest emo stuff, which it had a similar vibe to that. Where are they
I'm
from?
so glad they're from Kingston, Ontario.
Oh, okay.
Canada. They're a Canadian band.
Right. You said that.
I'm so glad that you pointed out like the emo kind of sound though, because that's something I've thought of quite a bit with the later half of their career.
Mhm.
It's like at a certain point, like after emo already not necessarily came and went, like Midwest emo, but like this band that was completely removed from all that kind of developed it in their own.
Right.
And it's really interesting because there's like several songs in their like kind of later career that are just total emo songs, but
Yeah.
not what you'd expect from what is essentially the most dad rock Canadian superstar band to
Yeah.
have like very introspective and poetic lyrics and just powerful guitar driven rock. Yeah.
Mhm.
Let's hear another.
Delivering noise, real tough boys. What else have I got? Half-price nuts, stolen guitars. What else is new? It's something to do. It's something to do. It ain't nothing new. Better not sweat, girls you bet. Something's working too. Half-price nuts, and the guitars. Blah, blah, blah. Something to do. Something to do. It ain't nothing new. It's something new.
That was The Replacements with one of their early songs, Something to Do. Do spelled D-U with the umlaut above it in reference to their Minnesota kinsman, Husker Du. And the song is, at least according to the website Genius, where the rap lyrics get analyzed by people who look like us. According to that, it's kind of a tongue-in-cheek tribute to them because they had kind of a running, playful rivalry in the like Minnesota punk scene, and this song is just kind of a goof on that, talking about being bored with suburban life and getting into this weirder music and stuff. Yeah, I just thought it would be fun to mix things up a little bit with a more punk kind of dad rock, but nonetheless dad rock for sure.
Very much still dad rock. I would definitely put Replacements in that. They're one of those bands that, I don't know about you, but I've always felt a pressure that I should be into them. But whenever I like try to sit down and listen to them, it just doesn't do it for me. This was pretty cool.
They have some songs that I really, really like, and then sometimes I just want to move on. But their first, this is from the Sorry Ma Forgot to Take Out the Trash compilation, which is like, I believe it's like early recordings and demos and stuff, and kind of their first full length, but also kind of a compilation. So there's a mix of songs from different periods on it. But yeah, I like this one. I like anything that references Husker Du.
And they're another band that like I don't think I could name you a single song of theirs. I'm just aware of their importance and have always felt like I wasn't doing my part in being a fan of theirs.
Yeah.
Because like I don't know why. Like nothing's ever really hooked me in, but I feel like they should because I love so many bands that are massively influenced by them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it's there. There must be something
Yeah.
there for me. Let's hear another.
It was just before dawn, one miserable morning in Black 44, when the forward commander was told to sit tight, when he asked that his men be withdrawn, and the generals gave thanks as the other ranks held back the enemy tanks for a while, and the Anzio bridgehead was held for the price of a
That was Pink Floyd with When the Tigers Broke Free off of the final album with Roger Waters called The Final Cut. The whole album is dedicated to his father, but this song in particular is about his father directly and the death of his father in Anzio. And so powerful. The horn arrangement by Michael Kamen is one of my all-time favorites. Just the way the melody is so sophisticated. It isn't just one sort of simple line. It goes all sorts of places. And in fact, this was the song that essentially taught me how to sing. When I was in high school, like my first job, I was closing a coffee shop, so I would be walking home around like 8 or 9 in Lincoln, where I was growing up, and so small town, not a lot of people out at all. So I was able to just walk down these streets like singing as loud as I could, and not look like a total weirdo. And this song was such a vocal workout. Because later on, I don't know if you've heard the song before, but he goes up to like the next register and the next register.
Okay.
And it becomes more powerful and builds with every line around. And so much emotion in this song.
Yeah.
Have you ever watched The Wall?
No, I have not.
Oh man, you need to watch The Wall.
Yeah.
Because so this song, though it's not on the album The Wall, this song is in the movie.
Okay.
Because there's a whole portion that's basically this story, and yeah, even more powerful. Like on top of that, so good. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't have a whole lot else to
I
say about
haven't-
this other than
I have not
a very
listened
strong
to-
recommendation for this album.
I have not listened to it. I don't think at all. Because as we've discussed a little bit, maybe off mic, but I'm still relatively on the surface of my Pink Floyd explorations.
Yeah.
But I've set course for the center of the sun of
The
Pink
heart.
Floyd, the heart of the sun. Yeah. Clearly, I'm off by a few degrees, but I'm looking forward to when we do a Pink Floyd specific episode because they got a lot of cool stuff, and I'm excited to learn the context for it more.
Because there's so much like mythology built into the songs that
Mhm.
if you're into lore like I am, there's so much to gobble up.
That's why they call you the lore hound.
They do. They really do. Let's hear another song.
Tempted and tried, we're off made to wonder why it should be thus all the day long, while there are others living about us, never molested, though in the wrong. Further along, we'll know more about it. Further along, we'll understand why. Cheer up, my brother.
That was the Flying Burrito Brothers with their cover of the traditional song Farther Along, which wasn't specifically a tribute song at this point, but it, in retrospect would become one. Clarence White, the guitarist that RJ and I talked about a few weeks back when you weren't here, this song, after he was struck by a car and died, this song Graham Parsons led a sing-along of at his funeral. And then Graham Parsons ended up dying, I think, just a few months later. So it was like, I don't know. It kind of, like I said, became a tribute song after the fact to both of them. These kind of, at least in some people's eyes, titans of country rock. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's just this, I think it's very pretty song. There's a Byrds version of it that Clarence White is on. But then there's also the Flying Burrito Brothers one, which is Graham Parsons. Yeah, I just think it's interesting that this song would have kind of, in addition to being kind of a traditional spiritual song, it would have that kind of cosmic element to it as well, with it being what is sung at one of their funerals and then not long after. Yeah, sad, but it's good.
I didn't know any of that. I always thought that this song was sad because I've known this song since I was a kid, and it always felt like it had a pretty, I don't know, not even an edge to it, but, and maybe it's just that a lot of spirituals sound sad to me. Maybe it's because like growing up in like old time religion, Pentecostal, a lot of those old hymns have a weird darkness and a sadness to them.
Yeah.
I mean, Amazing Grace comes to mind immediately.
Mhm.
Very sad sounding song. So yeah, this is lovely though. I'm so glad I know that about that though. Because that, it makes perfect sense to be a tribute song.
Mhm.
This could be at anyone's funeral. Like, it's
Right.
such a good funeral song.
And it has that nice honky tonk piano that
Yes.
I always enjoy listening to. Yeah.
Well, it looks like we have time for one more. You want to hear one more?
Yeah.
As her eyelids
wasn't my song.
Oh, interesting. I thought maybe we had picked the same thing.
No.
That would have been Donovan Said by the Brian Jonestown Massacre
Okay.
from their album, their Satanic Majesty's Second Request, which is interesting in that it's a sequel to a Rolling Stones album. And I picked this song in particular because it does have the most Rolling Stones-ish sound on it. Yes. So, it's just such an interesting concept to like continue the idea of a semi-forgotten Stones album as well. It's like not held in that high regard
As
because it
far
was
as
them,
album, yeah, like really, it just has the single. Like it doesn't
right?
have
And
really
people
any album
kind of
credibility.
talked about it being like overblown, like self-indulgent psychedelia. But in the case of the Brian Jonestown Massacre, whose name is a reference and tribute in and of itself to the Rolling Stones, they took that idea of psychedelic self-indulgence and made a whole album out of it, a sequel album. It's just a weird thing. Do you have much familiarity with them?
Very little. I remember listening to them a little bit in high school when I like discovered that there was like blues punk like as a subgenre. So like from that I was finding a bunch of different kind of stuff that was in this same sort of world. John Spencer Blues Explosion and like just the sort of like I guess edgy rock like sort of alternative rock. So I've listened to a very small amount of Brian Jonestown Massacre. What I can remember, I think I enjoyed. I don't know if it was really ever like for me. Was this a
maybe
good
it
album?
is now? I like
Maybe
this
it is
album,
now.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like this album. It's just, I think it's just interesting. Hearing a band make a spiritual, I don't know, like a spiritual sequel to another band's album. That's such a cool concept that I haven't really seen in any other case.
Yeah, I mean for some reason, what comes to mind as far as the only thing that's close to that is with the Decemberists making an album called The Hazards of Love, and that was like not the story based on it, but inspired by I forget who put out an EP called Hazards of Love that didn't have a song on it called Hazards of Love. And Colin Malloy always was frustrated by that. Like, that's a great title. That should be a song. That's like the closest I could think of taking another art and like making a completely new art with.
Yeah.
But it's cool. I think I should check out Brian Jonestown Massacre now.
Yeah.
Like as a grown up, like maybe I'll have more of an appreciation because I've just listened to more stuff since then. So maybe I'd have more touchstones with it, perhaps.
Yep.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, this was a fun episode. I enjoyed the hell out of
fun
this
variety.
week. Yes, I always like the variety episodes. So we hope you enjoyed this too, folks at home watching. And please, by all means, follow us at Instagram at Dad Rock Talk, and you drop a comment on any of our stuff suggesting episode topics. Because this was a hoot and a half, and we didn't come up with it. So please give us some suggestions that you want to see us do on this show. And that's at Dad Rock Talk on Instagram. And follow, tune in every week here at the Stab channel at 6:00. We'll be here next week. We don't know what we're going to talk about yet. Maybe you could help us with that. That would be very appreciated.
Yes.
Have a wonderful night. Go Sharks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, thank you once again, Corey and Court. That's 6:00 Dad Rock Talk. But we're not done for the night, guys. No. Heavens no. Come back at 8:00 for the Stab show. The show that the theater was built on, and then subsequently the channel was built. It's almost 8 years old, the Stab show. Next month, the 8-year anniversary. Wow. It's crazy. Tonight we've got Jason B., Sean Crandall, and Aviva Siegel. Should be lots of fun. So come back at 8:00. In the meantime, let's find a place to send the Twitch audience. Oh, who's still going to be doing something? It's always the risk of the raid. Are they just finishing? Are they just starting? Who knows? Let's send you over to... you know what? We got our friend Bigfoot Bjornsson. He's just doing some writing. I don't want to send you over to some shows that might be ending. It's always tricky. So go enjoy that, and we'll see you back here, hopefully, at 8 o'clock. So hold on for the raid.